Stay right there. What are you waiting for? Kill him! Kill them both! No, wait a minute. Is it money you're after? I'll give you as much as you want.
May the saints forgive you, because I won't.
I'm Organized Meat on Twitter. It's at Bazillion Plus, but everyone can just call me Eric. Yeah, and I'm here. Jin's invited me on. We've done a few episodes in the past. The last one was a series of 3 Ralph Bakshi films, which is great. And this one, it's another Ralph Bakshi film that we're going to discuss. And it's very different than the other 3. So yeah, we're going to be discussing Cool World. And yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate it because I love that we did our series like that. Like, it was kind of a cool synthesis of my crazy metaphysical mind, I guess we'll call it, and your literary, like, kind of analysis approach. So I really appreciate that collabo. And yeah, this is a lot harder in there is a ton of metaphysics. Don't misunderstand that but because the film is so chaotic, the metaphysics are also chaotic.
Mhm.
But I think it actually relates a lot to, you know, the film world more broadly, like this film, because the world is sort of you could say there's something Discordian about the whole multiple universes within the film and how it's even contained and explained. I don't know if you agree with that, but I just want to throw it out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the film, like, it really felt chaotic, just the storyline. And I have a feeling, and I looked it up, and I was right. There was a Ralph Bakshi draft of the script. Studio didn't like it, so they had a bunch of rewrites happening. Brought in a few different writers, and I think that shows in just this overall kind of maybe accidentally chaotic. I mean, I know there's supposed to be some sort of chaos. You're mixing cartoon and real world, and just kind of the basic plot is a little complicated and hectic, but the film did just jump around a lot, and I think a lot of that is just like fault of too many cooks, trying to get that story just right. Yeah, and I have more thoughts on that we can discuss later.
Absolutely, but you're totally correct in everything you just said. And as it is also true for cooks, I would say it's also true for magicians in the sense that I would argue, since we did our 3-part other series, or this obviously continuation, but 3 parts prior, is that he has a hermeneutic. He has there's a metaphysics he's drawing from. I would argue it's like Kabbalistic, maybe a little Telema, maybe a little like Typhonian, I don't know, but it's definitely Kabbalistic. So for me, if you have a bunch of different people who maybe use different systems, or it doesn't even have to be using different systems, but maybe their kind of ideas of the world are different.
Mm-hmm.
It also creates a messy, because your worldview is not clean, right? There's no, in Kabbalah, as we've discussed many times, there's always a resolution of paradox that has to happen to enter the Sephra. I don't know if we've discussed it many times, but I think I've said it a few times at least. So that can never happen. So it's almost like, I'm going to use a sexy metaphor, Eric, and I apologize, but it is almost like reaching climax, but you can't ever get there simply because there's no roadmap for completion. So the film for me was very much like that. I'm speaking metaphysically, but I think also as a film, it's quite like that. But it is interesting because Hollywood, who obviously we'll discuss more, she does have an heiress-like kind of mother of the imperfect creation. There's something of her that reminds me of that. But in terms of, like, I obviously compared her to Jessica Rabbit because Jessica Rabbit is much more of a Babylon girl. But in a way, Hollywood is that character, but she's slightly different. And we'll obviously, like, I will address what I mean by that, but I just want to say that it's kind of unfair to compare this film to the other ones because, as you said, there's really 3, perhaps 4 films. There's even 4 storylines in the film that aren't even coherent, really. So, you know, it's one of those things. Obviously, total box office bomb. I personally didn't think it was terrible, but I was like, what I'm not quite sure what I'm watching. And I do remember watching this as like a little kid. Maybe not little, but you know, like 10 or 11 or 12, whatever.
That's exactly the same. I think I rented this when it came out on video from Blockbuster. So it must have been 93. So I was like 12 years old. And I remember it was like, you know, it was animated. So my parents didn't really care, didn't know what the plot was. But, you know, obviously I liked the, you know, the Kim Basinger character. I you know, Jessica Rabbit from Who Frames Roger Rabbit. You know, I'd seen all that. But I guess the film never really stuck with me. And I see now, rewatching it, maybe why. I was just probably as confused then as I am now about some parts.
So this is a really interesting idea, is that it is somewhat easier to, I think, to sympathize or even suspend your disbelief for an animated film when there is a sense of attraction, meaning that doesn't mean sexual, but you could say that there's a element of that you can tap into. Like if you're looking at film as a hermeneutic, like the viewer, they would have to dialectically interact with what they're seeing. If you're talking about it as I'm just strictly saying, Eric, I'm sorry, as a magical operation, the film would have to like magnetize you in specific ways. Sexuality is obviously one of them. This is like, it goes without saying, the sex sells, but I think it's more than that with animation, because it requires a little bit more of a layer. So this is interesting in this film because the interaction between the cartoon world and the quote unquote real world, or the human world, at least the Noid world, which obviously we have to get into as well, they're not harmonious. In fact, many times, and as noted in many and pretty much every film review I read, the interaction is very imperfect, at least imperfectly captured on screen. So it's almost intangible. And I think that's what makes this film very intangible, like in terms of like memory and like what makes a classic animated film, like the other films we watched previously. I'll remember those forever now that we've discussed them and I've watched them like 3 or 4 times. But this one is like, it's so nebulous that it never comes into, I'm gonna use a really Kabbalah term, like it never comes into formation. So I don't know. So Eric, why don't you? I'm sorry, that wasn't I didn't mean for that to be a tangent, but
oh no, that was great. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. It kind of felt like yeah, the movie like not reaching the climax. It felt like the movie just sort of never really got there. As much as like almost I can even see what it was trying to do, or what maybe Ralph Bakshi had in mind, what he wanted to do, and what the final product was.
I do have to say there is something synchromystical. I don't believe in synchromysticism per se, but there was something that kept happening is that we obviously announced our series like a few weeks ago, maybe like 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, that like 90s anime account and all these like kind of like like vintage retro kind of like sci-fi accounts, they started doing
yes.
posting Cool World. I did notice this. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if we had an impact on that. I noticed it. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Oh yeah, no, we put it out there into the ether. I think people are talking about it, and yeah, I know Ralph Bakshi still has a Twitter account, and I think he posted like a Cool World image just like a couple days ago.
Yeah, he did a really cool one, which I might use. I don't know, probably not,
Mhm.
but I'm just saying it seemed very aligned.
Mhm, yeah, no, it's out there. People are catching on.
Okay, so let's I'll let you do it. You can I'll say school us through the introduction to what the world as you understand it is.
Well, like how the film started.
Yeah, let's start as chronological this time
Because
because maybe it's better as a chronology rather than all over the place Jin like episode.
yeah, it's because the chronology is important because it does the film does go in order, but it just some things aren't explained or stories just dropped, which is what they begin with, which is so Brad Pitt's 1945. He just got home from World War II. He arrives in Las Vegas, which I love. I love that Vegas is a central place to this, and especially the Plaza Hotel. But he arrives in Vegas and he's greeted by his mom. He takes his mom out on a ride on a motorcycle, and they get into a car accident with some like drunk gambler that's coming back from the casino. And then suddenly he's transported into a cartoon world where he has to be a detective. And the big rule is you're not allowed to have sex with the cartoons because that'll like throw everything into whack. It'll disrupt the natural order. And that's kind of what this film was sold as in its advertising. It was always like, Hollywood, if she could. And like this sort of like very soap opera type advertising about like, are they going to have sex, with the cartoons? Is that going to happen? And really, that tends to be like, it is brought up, but never really as often or even explicitly. I mean, it goes on to like there is attraction between Brad Pitt and some of the cartoons and also Gabriel Byrne, but that whole like don't have sex with the cartoons thing is kind of dropped for a larger part of the movie. And so like immediately it's like, okay, I can accept that Brad Pitt, was just dropped into this cartoon world and now he's a detective. Okay, let's go from there. But then it just gets more complicated, and I don't even know where his original story goes. We're never like, we're never given any resolution to like why he was chosen or like why that happened at all.
Well, this is something you bring up something really interesting, or you kind of end your synopsis, which I appreciate, obviously. Thank you. But you end on a really interesting note, is that this film was really written as a horror film, right? That's was Bakshi's original intention. Maybe like a dark comedy horror, but more horror than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So as I understand it, reading like accounts of him talking about the film, which are, it's not like a huge part of his media personality. but he's spoken about it a few times. And as I understand it, the pen was his original idea. That was something that sort of, obviously the pen very much contains the world because they're drawings, so they're made of ink, but it also it's very much sort of metaphor for like the magician and like a wand. And her name is Hollywood. This has obviously been many times commented upon. I'll just reference it because I did a long form series on her work, but Tracy Twyman would often talk about the Druid's wand and Hollywood, and obviously Jay Dyer and all those guys have all talked about it as well. But I really think that that's what the pen is. It's really like Bakshi was going in a really interesting direction of like what happens when you kill a doodle. Is there an interaction with the other world? Like maybe that also throws it out of balance, his wand.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Noided thing, or the Noid, I guess they didn't have Noided at this time, but we have Noided now because it's very online. But that's also really interesting to me because it's also an immigration term. So I don't know, just something very weird, again, very synchromystical about this. And I did like Kim Basinger in this for the most part. I actually liked her as the voice better.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting because she's very beautiful. Like I have no problem with her. I'm just saying that I thought she was more magnetic as the voice rather than the live action character. So I wonder if that's the relationship with the pen. I'm sorry, Eric, you can go ahead.
Oh no. Yeah. So well, about the pen, like that was one thing. It was just brought up. It was brought up like somewhere, the first half hour. And then it was brought up again at the end, and you never really see the importance of the pen throughout. And that's one of the things that I think it was just like, the script, people disagreed with what the story was going to be. They wanted to keep certain elements, but they weren't really being faithful to one coherent story. There was like 4 or 5 different stories in here in different ways that people wanted to tell them. And so that was, I'm glad you brought up the pen because that does seem like something that, that was Ralph Bakshi's. They just didn't really follow through on like making that really hit with the audience. And so and also the Noid. So this is the thing. I'm not online enough. So like it's an immigration term also. What's the concept?
So okay, I have no idea, but it's like it's some kind of order, like a deportation order kind of thing, as I understand it.
All
it's
right,
like a notice of intent to deport.
Okay. So I mean that makes sense. I guess I never heard that. But when I hear Noid, I just think of like the 1980s, 90s Domino's Pizza, like avoid the Noid commercials. I don't know if they had those in Canada too, but
they probably did. But I didn't really. I mean, I grew up in other places too, so I don't. Honestly, my childhood is like a blur. So in the non-MK Ultra way, obviously. But no, so Noid also online can also refer to like a certain kind of conspiracy. We'll say side of Twitter. So they're called Noided. So if you're Noided, you're like paranoided, but it's not like a tinfoil hat conspiracy layer. It's more that you're skeptical of everything. So I kind of fall into this Noided category where I'm flexible but skeptical.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, I'd never heard the term in that way. I mean, I've heard I guess I've probably seen it on Twitter and everything, but I probably never really paid attention to what, I don't know, I guess the context or what it signified. Thank you for that clarification. And the other thing with Kim Basinger, like, yeah, her voice, she was so much more sexy when she was just the voice, and you got to see Hollywood, like the animation, because I guess, I don't know, she just, even though she is very beautiful, like when you see her in person, it's just like not quite as sexy, like as she was as the cartoon, which sounds very weird to say. But like, yeah, I do prefer the cartoon version of her, also because I don't know, in real life, maybe it was just her acting, but she just seemed more like ditzy retarded rather
I
than
totally agree.
sexy.
Thank you for yeah, you pulled the bandage off very quickly with that. So thank you. I appreciate that. No, I was thinking that honestly the whole time, and I was like, I won't be so mean to her. But yeah, you're totally right though. Like she it's like almost like she forgot. It's like she was like, I think as a voice actor, 10 out of 10. Like literally the Hollywood character was actually pretty cool for what like you were exposed to in terms of her exposition, her characterization. It was again chaotic, but maybe in a way, and I wrote this down as like something we can talk about later, but she has the Babylon energy. And as with like all Bakshi kinds of first ladies, I guess, or like leading ladies. So she does have it. But hers is kind of like something I've discussed a little bit before, not with you, but on several other shows, is the Eisheth Zenunim. So this is considered to be like, there are different titles for her, but it's like the one idea is that she's like the princess of the Klippas. So she's like the negative sort of charge of manifestation. So because she's a cartoon, she literally is a negative space, very Sephirotic.
Mm-hmm.
And she cannot have sex. That's a big part of that character or that archetype. So I always thought it was really interesting because there's something very tantric in how they kind of prolong climax. That's a very tantric idea. I'm not trying to be weird, but it is a tantric idea. I'm not talking about like Sting and all that stuff. It's more conceptual than that. Like it's more like holding the idea in your mind, not really doing the act, but just holding the idea in your mind of prolonging that conscious sensation rather than physical bliss. Sometimes that's a part of it, but for most people, that's not true. For me, that's not true. So I'll just say for me, but it's more consciousness. But I understand what they're talking about. So I do think it's interesting. And the wand and sorry, not the wand, but the wand and the pen have they are a interrelationship. There are people who've discussed this because the pen is like a vehicle for both understanding, meaning the text, the physical text, in this case, the Noids, or not the Noids, excuse me, the Doodles, and the word, the logos, the idea. But the Doodles are also logos in a way because they don't really exist. They're, again, Sephirotic, they're negative space, whereas humans are physical. So they're fully manifest in the world, and that has both negative and positive consequences. One consequence of that is the physical pleasure and desire. I think that's part of like the cosmology of the film. I think it's implied, although again, very chaotic. It's implied that it's increased manifold.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's interesting. I just think that there's something interesting about them being negative space. Humans aren't negative space, of course, but we can best embody the qualities of the tree, whereas the Doodles cannot. They're not fully realized, except for Hollywood, the magic one.
Yeah. I mean, because also, I mean, this goes into, so after we're introduced to, Brad Pitt dropping down into the cartoon world, they cut to Jack, who's Gabriel Byrne plays Jack, and he's a prisoner. He was sent to prison for killing the man that was in bed with his wife. And when he's in prison, I guess he started creating these comics, right? Cool World comics. And it was, all the characters that you see in Brad Pitt's cartoon world. And so we find out that this guy is the creator, and this is like present day. This is supposed to be in like in the early 90s. Jack is writing this, as opposed to 1945 when Brad Pitt crashed his motorcycle and his mom died. And then we realize that and it's never explained. And this is where is how Gabriel Byrne was just suddenly sucked into this cartoon world that he created. And I mean, there's obviously that draw of it's his fantasy that he's drawn into, so of course he's going to want to really live in it. I don't know, I think that I don't know quite how to connect it, but that goes something into what you were saying about.
Absolutely. This is an interesting idea I had. Maybe this is a proto Isekai film. I don't know if you know what that is, Eric, because it's very weeby. But an Isekai film is a reincarnation or a rebirth film. But it doesn't necessarily mean death. The character doesn't have to die to go to another world. They just somehow end up there. Usually they're summoned or a god brings them over, something like that. So this, in a way, you could say is very Kenneth Grant, very Typhonian. He goes through the mist. They love that kind of metaphor. They go through the mist, exactly kind of what happens. He's kind of in a fog, a daze of memory, but it's a mixture of his own mind and his desires and his projection. And then his pen. So it's the way it's the medium through which his spiritual technology, you could say, that he uses to interact with both worlds and make one of them real.
Wow. Yes, exactly. And I'm glad you brought up what is it? Isekai?
Yeah, Isekai. Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to go over but I thought, no, that's an interesting concept because that is this film.
Yeah, because okay, so a lot of things make sense because I've been reading J. David Osborne's God's Fair No Better, and there's tons of rebirth and just transformation in there, and it's okay, so that makes sense, and I can see how it plays into that. Okay, that makes a lot more if they were just able to explain that in the film, it would be great, but there's no, it just happens, and we have the audience is left with how did that happen, and then why are these two people from generations apart together in a cartoon world that this guy created. But yeah, no, that Isekai makes a lot of sense.
No, absolutely. And there is actually an interesting parallel, a Kabbalistic parallel, because I was saying men or people will say the world of humans is made of aggregates, but the aggregate's also us. It's also what causes us to come into formation. But the cartoons kind of exist in this higher dimension, you could say. They exist in a higher sufferer or higher up on the tree. But again, because they cannot manifest without the works of man. So it reminds me of the thing you brought up at the very beginning, is saying that the setting is Las Vegas. Well, as famously sort of, well, I don't know how well known it is, but it's well known with people that I know, is that, what's his name? The Mormon guy, Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith, he set up a mission actually in Las Vegas, and they called it New Jerusalem. So interesting.
Yeah.
A magician set up a little, magician's enclave. I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. No, I think the Vegas setting is perfect for this film. Just because the film is so chaotic, it can only be Vegas. It's so weird and chaotic.
See, that's what's interesting. And then also you have Howard Hughes living at the Palms, or I think he was at the Palms. I can't remember now.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That sounds right, but I might be wrong. So I give myself leeway for that. But that's interesting because he also thought he was a magician. I'm not saying he was. I'm just saying he thought he was. So they definitely were like really. I mean, he wasn't a Mormon per se, but the Mormons thought he was I'm not even being funny. The Mormons really believed he was like a prophet and a revelator. They just didn't believe he was the only one. So
Wow.
then you also have you have Howard Hughes in Vegas, but then it just reminded me because Brad Pitt's character really, I almost feel like he's a stand-in for Robert E. Howard. I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying that has anything to do with it, but there was an element to me of a Robert E. Howard kind of like Indiana Jones scholar wizard. We'll call
Yes. Yeah. No, it was because he was like, he was an adventurer. Like, he's coming home from World War II on a plane. He rides motorcycles. He's very macho, but also has like that dapper classiness and charm. Yeah, very much. Yeah. Very like Robert E. Howard.
Which is also interesting because I've interviewed a couple people from the Temple of Set on Occult Rejects with Nick, and there was a faction of them who, although they're famously known to be very into Lovecraft and all that, there was a faction of them that were really into Robert E. Howard and specifically the Hyperborean Conan mythologies.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of is a counterbalance to the more Typhonian OTO, Kenneth Grant, like the Monsters of the Abyss. It kind of posits like a hero mythology rather than like an abyssal journey. Because there's obviously, we've talked about this many times, but for people listening, there's multiple paths, even on the tree, that a hero can take, depending on what kind of hero you are. So that's also interesting to me. I don't know, but it is interesting. And Robert E. Howard has a magic birth date. So I want to say a birth and a death date. Both are magic numbers. Like really magic.
What are they?
So he was born Jan 22. So 22 is actually the completion on the Tree of Life. It's the path 22 is the completion of the hero's journey, actually through the fire into Tiferet. So into like I'm going to use a theosophical term, Eric, but I'm not being a theosophist by saying it. I'm just using it as like a placeholder, we'll say. But it brings you into Christ consciousness. That's kind of the idea. Okay. Or like I would never say that. Like I wouldn't call it that ever. I would say Tiferatic consciousness, obviously. But there's a correlation, we'll say. So, and then his death date is June 11th. So 11 is obviously the K, like Crowley loved to write like Magick. K is the 11th letter of the alphabet. Double K is the sort of magic code, you could say, for path 22. I don't know. I'm just saying I'm framing it as synchro mystical rather than nefarious. I'm just saying, there's something there. Maybe Robert E. Howard, I know this is not a Robert E. Howard thing, but I think that I think Bakshi's tapping into that. I personally think that.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I mean, Bakshi, a very, very weird guy. And I mean, based on like, some of what we saw in the Wizards and Fire and Ice, I mean, he obviously loved, those kind of Robert E. Howard characters, because there's always like one of them in all of his films. And yeah.
Anyways, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail us from the film, but I just thought it was interesting.
Oh no, that is like, yeah.
Honestly, I saw Brad Pitt and I was like, oh, this kind of reminds me of something. And like, and he always wore the hat, and I don't know, just there was something. But I think it's also interesting though, like we'll go back to Vegas and the setting. Like Vegas is like in the middle of the desert. So it is very physically a liminal space, a space between worlds. That's a very Egyptian idea, obviously. And you would go out to the desert to commune with Apep, the sort of air serpent, the Ahriman, or the Setian figure, you could say, although Set was perhaps a different figure in the older Egyptian cosmology, but then became like Seth and Apep became syncretized. So I don't know. There's something really interesting with that. It's very like dragon energy. It's like creative, like you said it perfectly. Creative, chaotic, maybe a little magical as well. So it's like a perfect place to set a film like this, where it's crossing between polarities, crossing between the worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And yeah. No. It also just just a great setting, because I mean, when we're dropped into cartoon world, it's, you know, just sort of like we're dropped into like showgirls and you know, sort of, you know, drooling men with, you know, money in their hands, like screaming at women, like which is just like, you know, it's very like old Vegas, you know, 1950s style Vegas. And it really, as far as like the animation goes, like that's kind of like the most enjoyable parts of the movie is just Ralph Bakshi drawing showgirls and like all these odd characters in the crowd. That's like that really shines through as like being one of the best parts of the film, especially when Brad Pitt's character Frank goes to talk to Hollywood backstage after her performance. Just like very like sultry 1940s noir style, which is great. I mean, and this is like, I know Bakshi intended it to be a horror film. I guess they probably wanted to make it into a comedy film, and then some want to make it into like a hot sex film. But really, it's a noir film.
It is a noir film, absolutely. So I thought of you instantly. I was like, okay, I get it. I know why Eric wanted to watch this. I get
it. Yeah, no, yeah, I love noir, and I mean, it's in. I think they put it in that setting and not, instead of being a horror film, because Who Framed Roger Rabbit was a noir comedy. Like it was a detective film, right? And so I think the studios were like, nah, let's do more detective, and which probably complicates the storyline of what Bakshi actually wanted to do.
So you said something really interesting that also like sort of correlates to exactly what you're saying now. Is that you said the most enjoyable part was the animation. I totally agree. Classic Bakshi looks beautiful, looks great. King of Rotoscope, as someone else teased me about our series that we did. They were like, "Oh, like you did a series on the King of Rotoscoping." Oh, yeah, we did. But so yeah, that looks great. So when Bakshi was able to exercise his pen, using the metaphor from the film, but in a more literal way, that's when the film sort of it's closer to its apex. It's closer to like its perfection or apotheosis. And the more diffuse, or the more like I'll just speak really plainly, the more like retarded it became with like these additional plot lines. Like the romance could have been like a fine subplot in a kind of like noir horror animation crossover.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have totally worked. Like you could have a femme fatale, or you could have like a good girl, or you could like throw up all the archetypes in the air and, you know, change it up. But it's too many. It's too many like very divergent ideas. And I think this is exactly what you said. I think they're trying to make it Who Framed Roger Rabbit, or they're trying not to have it be edgy, but I remember it being really, people were very like, oh my God, this is like basically like an X-rated film. I don't know, but there's something about that I think that people did think.
Oh yeah, no, I remember that, you know, at the time going around was people saying like articles that were written saying, oh well, you know, Who Framed Roger Rabbit was one thing, and Jessica Rabbit was one thing, but this is blatantly sexual, and it's a cartoon, and cartoons are for kids, so kids will watch this and be attracted to it, and then they'll get into weird perverted sex stuff, which, I mean, I don't know if they actually watched the movie, because I just felt there wasn't that much of that going on. There was a couple scenes of just flirtation between the the cartoons and real people, but other than that, there wasn't like that much discussion of sex, unless I'm missing a lot of subtleties.
No, I mean, she kind of has like this orgasmic sequence in her apartment in Cool World, like 3/4 in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There are a couple scenes, but it's not,
for our standard. It's like nothing. Like for today's standard, this is like nothing. This is not hentai. It is not even ecchi. It's like, which are obviously very weeb terms. Again, I apologize, Eric, but this is not though. This is not that. So it is interesting to me that like the people have such a, even for me, like I have such a, like a more I don't know, trad Twitter kind of memory of it, and that people think it's so sexual, because you're right, it's not really super sexual. It's like it's pretty milquetoast, pretty mild.
Yeah. I think it was also, again, the way it was marketed. I think they wanted to entice people to see a controversial film. And so they marketed as it. The trailers made it look a lot more sexual than it was. Like in all the advertisements, it was just seemed like it was going to be all you're waiting for through the whole movie is waiting to see if this cartoon and this guy are going to have sex. And it wasn't really like that. You saw it for maybe a few minutes in a scene, and that was it. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. But that was also the age when like it was 93. So everyone was freaking out about like song lyrics on CDs and rating. Like that was the conservative Newt Gingrich type of Christianity freak out about morals in the 90s, which was lame. So
I agree. I'm glad you said it, because I was like, it was pretty lame. It was pretty lame. It's pretty lame to like castigate like just a free expression. I'm not saying like everything goes, but I'm saying, like look at Twitter. People say anything pretty much. Like even crazy things.
Oh yeah.
So, I don't know, maybe they were right in a way that it shifted culture, probably, but it is what it is now. And so, yeah, by today's standards, this, and I think that the thing about editing, I'm sorry to jump like that, but maybe I'm, inhabiting a little bit of the film world and being chaotic, but the editing of the trailer, I think, is interesting because it's like a retelling. It's like a parafiction within the greater metafiction of the whole film. So you're taking a little components and you're mixing the timeline. You're presenting the viewer of the trailer with a brand new timeline. It may not even be relational to the original thing. It's very like simulacra. Oh, sorry about that, Eric.
No, okay. I was gonna say, did you cut out?
Yeah, I did, but you know what? It's okay. It's all part of it. But please go ahead. I mean, we should probably do more chronology and keep talking about it. But I just thought it's interesting.
No, I was gonna say, like, I mean, if you watch the trailer, you wouldn't know that Gabriel Byrne is even in the movie. Like, you just thought it was about Brad Pitt trying to fuck a cartoon character, and like, I mean, the way they edited that. They really only took like one of the stories, isolated it, and sold it to people. And I mean, I don't know. It's, I guess, just like even watching that trailer, if you were a mom in the early 90s with your kid and you're super Christian, very conservative, I guess you would be a little outraged, but I mean, all that stuff goes in waves and comes back in different formations. Like, I mean, nowadays, if you release Cool World, they would want to know if Brad Pitt and the cartoon had an intimacy coordinator or something on set. Like, it's, you know, different ways of like shining a bad light on something that was like perfectly innocuous.
So I think that this is really interesting because you're totally right that they marketed the film as being extremely transgressive. Obviously, Bakshi kind of got blacklisted a little bit. It's unclear why. Obviously, Fritz the Cat was just one of the many films he made. So it wasn't like, I don't think it was the only reason, but
Oh, no, it was he made a film called Coontown. Which is exactly what you think it is. And that I think when that sort of stuff came out, because it wasn't widely distributed, but later on people found out, and
so
yeah,
he was canceled.
Yeah, and then I think Heavy Traffic may have had a little bit to do with that, even though that was a pretty mainstream movie. I think people look back on it and they're just stupid. So I mean, Coontown was great, and so we don't have to worry about.
You should watch it.
Cancel him anymore. Oh yeah, no, we should. We will. Yeah.
I'm totally fine with it. You know, I'm very flexible. I don't really. That stuff doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, no, it's just very of the time, like early 70s stuff. Just as Cool World is like very early 90s, trying to be edgy, you know, having humans have sex with cartoons, right?
Very MTV, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which is that is great about this movie, is that like it just does kind of encapsulate that time where like people were just trying to be edgy and audacious, just you know, to shock people. And like, I guess by its marketing, that's what this movie did, even though when you watch the film it's quite different.
Well, I think that, you know, I think Bakshi's like a auteur. Okay, so we'll just say that maybe, I don't know if I believe that. I do believe that, but we'll just say it's like my premise for right now. I think when they took the pen out of his hand, sort of like gave it like their Hollywood remix, like maybe that's even a good way to frame it. It took the magic out. It could never. It can't really manifest his vision, and like his films are very much, even his collaborative films, they're very much an expression of him and his style and his just overall aesthetic and like what he's associated with.
Yeah, I mean, even down to, I mean, I don't know if it was his idea, maybe it was added in, but the spike on top of the Plaza Hotel that you have to remove, that I guess I don't even know what it does. Like, I've watched this movie a few times in the past month, and I still don't know. Like, it transports Doodles back into real life, or transports real life people back into Doodles. I don't know, but there's something like a sword in the stone type aspect of like, you know, having to like, you know, lift this spike from the top of the hotel. And
yeah, they call them nails, which I thought was really interesting.
Oh yeah, nails. Yes, his Frank's assistant. Yeah.
We also use a thing called nails. Sometimes I'll post them when I'm fighting with people. One of the translations for that implement, like ritual implement, is called a nail or a peg. But nail is also correct. That's not a wrong translation either. It can be either or. So I do think that is really interesting, because that is something that is supposed to sort of take your lightning consciousness. So I'm talking about consciousness, not necessarily magic, but you can understand it as being expressed in the film when they do traverse through the realms and you see that quicksilver blue lightning.
Mhm.
That is, you can say that that's an expression of Hod or Mercury. So it's really interesting because that is the idea in Kabbalah, is that that kind of quicksilver lightning from that Sephira is what takes you up the lightning path. So I don't know, just another interesting, maybe unrealized element, but I think initially put there with an intention that to signal like it is a kind of magical, if not an operation, it's signaling a magical experience or like a Sephirotic experience or a Kabbalistic one or whatever.
Yeah, no, there's something about like, lightning, electricity that's just always used as, it's kind of a trope to like transport people. And I guess the writers were just like, well, okay, it can just be like, I don't know, random lightning, random electricity. I don't know. Just use it and that'll make everything make sense and we can go from there. Because, I mean, the trope is used, I mean, just
Oh, absolutely. Now,
yeah, all the time.
it's an old trope. I just mean with the nails, since those
Oh,
are
yeah.
conductors of electricity in like a magic system in Tantra. So the
Yeah.
idea that they would, and then it also to be electric blue. Now I know people when they think of lightning, they immediately probably do think of electric blue, and that's fine. But it also has a Kabbalistic reason, because if you have lightning of a different color, it may mean a different thing. So
Yeah.
there's like a relational element or symbolic element that you could say corresponds well. Now, is that intentional? Again, it could have been if Bakshi put it in. Now, if one of these other cats will say put it in, I don't know. But I think I think it's worth note.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just something that, um, like the the underlying truth of it being blue connotating one thing may be something that has just been around for so long that even maybe one of the random writers just put it in there because that's how he sees it. And there's no, like, he may not be trying to convey any sort of intention with it knowingly, but it's just been that way for so long. Like, all this stuff is sort of infused in our stories, in our way of telling things, and in our way of imagining things, that eventually he just writes them that way. So I mean, that could be true either way, but I think it's no accident.
Well, I also thought that her transformation from white dress to pink outfit was kind of Kabbalistically interesting also. Just
Mhm.
I'm not saying that it's inherently intentional, but I think that for her character, her archetype, it fits rather well. So just think that like the character, the Princess of the Kalipas that I mentioned, that would be kind of like a transitional color, would be white into pink.
Yeah, and it kind of, I mean, she looks so much better in the white dress, but
I agree with you. I agree with you actually. I think it worked. If they wanted to make her like a Jessica Rabbit character, whether that was how she was originally intended to be or not, it worked better, like her aesthetic. When they did that kind of early 90s Saved by the Bell look, it didn't happen for me. It was like this is kind of cringe and old.
Yeah. And it was also her character. So I mean, she's so beautiful, as the cartoon, and sexy, and you're just sort of rooting for her. And then in the end, you realize she knows that if she has sex with Jack, that it'll ruin things for him. They don't really like go into too much detail on why having sex with cartoon human sex is what that will really do to the world. It's just supposed to be out there as like, you're not supposed to do it because. And yeah, but she just doesn't give a fuck. She's just like, I don't care what happens. Like,
No, her desire comes first, number one.
Yes, she wants to like have human sex. She needs that. And you can tell like by the way she's acting in almost every scene, like she just exudes sexuality. So that's kind of like her base desire. And that comes first, even if it means screwing over this person that she loves, that created her, right? He's the artist that created her. Even though Brad Pitt's character is telling us that Cartoon Town has been around long before he drew it, which is a little like, again, that whole thing is like, I don't know how that works into the plot.
So it doesn't. Let me just interrupt you there because I just think you're on a really interesting tangent. Is that, well, not a tangent, but a point is that I agree with you. It doesn't make sense in the plot, but let me offer like a little metaphysics because I think I can connect it. So Kenneth Grant and like the Mauve Ray, like his Mauve Zone, Mauve Zone. He talks about this kind of liminal, imaginal space that a magician or the characters in the book access through sort of like the dreaming, but it's creative. They say that that's where the creative sort of forces happen, but you either have to go there, meaning your consciousness has to travel there, or you physically have to go there. But maybe not physically, but they're saying that something has to happen, that you have to get up to this space where the Doodles live. So you could say the Doodles in a way are like ghosts, or maybe you could say they're like hosts, not necessarily angels or demons or goetics or anything like that. But maybe they are kind of like part of the greater retinue of spirits in the world. So they can't interact. It's like that prohibition that God makes in the, many times, that like angels and humans should not lie together. But just take it in a more metaphysical way. So like a spirit and a human, they're the wrong polarities. It's like it's the meme about the the seatbelts for Pride Month. They you can't have two poles together. That doesn't click, right? A male and a female, they click because the parts all fit together. So, but a spirit and a human, they don't click. An angel and a human, they don't click. An angel and a goetic, they don't click. It's not the same ending. So I think that is, I'm not saying that she's not a female. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that they're energetically incompatible. And that's part of what like the whole hero's journey is balancing the polarities. He cannot balance the polarities if she's intangible. It would take both of them in physical. So it is interesting that she throws him off the building as well. She like kills sort of like the force of love, even though it's not directed at her, but it's like the force of love in the world. He kind of brings that human sensibility of monogamy, of I don't know, it's like he brings he brings a hero's quality, like something good about him, something uplifting. So I wanted to say about like the Cool World existing before the other guy wrote it. If it exists in people's imagination, then we can carry it with us through like thousands of years, right? Like they just take on other forms. Like the hosts exist, but maybe when we interact with them, they appear as cartoons because it's an interaction with our with our minds and our imagination. I'm just offering like a Kenneth Grant, like Typhonian kind of layer of how this could exist, obviously with my Buddhism, or like with a like tantric Buddhist way of thinking. So I'm just saying that the way they look, the way a human looks at we'll call them quote unquote air quotes. I'm using air quotes. You can't see, but air quotes hosts. How they appear or how they arise in the world is dependent on us, on the witness. So I don't know. I kind of think that that's interesting. And then the idea that the world can exist because it's really in our imagination, which doesn't make it less real. But again, there is a disjointedness, a chaoticness, a kind of incompatibility sparks between the polarities of those worlds. Because again, the hosts or the doodles live in a higher realm. Even though they're not higher necessarily in consciousness, they do inhabit a higher world. That's one way you could think of it. I'm just trying to tie it. I'm trying to add like a little path working to it, make it, make the film make sense a little more, fill in the gaps.
Yeah, and no, like if you think of it as like the pen kind of filling in for the desires and wants, the ultimate reality that the person who's drawing like puts in. Like I get that. I forgot what I was gonna say.
Don't worry at all. No, okay, so then they go through like this chaotic journey.
Mhm.
She realizes kind of like her desire is to have sex, but it's not, the sex for her just serves the purpose of remaining in the human world. It's not like sex is her primary goal, but she's certainly sexual as a character. Now, I would be interested in hearing your thoughts if she fits the sort of noir archetypes or not.
I mean, she does. I mean, she's a femme fatale, definitely. I mean, because she knows that what she's doing is wrong. She's not supposed to do it because it's bringing this, like Gabriel Byrne isn't supposed to have sex with cartoons. He's trying not to, but he succumbs, and he knows that will, again, do something to the world around him. It'll ruin everything, and that's kind of femme fatale. Just you use that guy and toss him out. Even though I don't know, she didn't really toss him out, I guess, but she definitely used him, and to his detriment.
It's interesting because that princess archetype, and I agree, femme fatale, 100%, is that she would view him as a vehicle for her own liberation. That's even part of her story. So I just wanted to add that because I think it's interesting. Kind of corresponds to the femme fatale in many ways.
Oh yeah, no. It's she uses him for entirely selfish reasons, but I guess like it's the last half hour of the movie which is the most chaotic. I don't know how you felt, but it was the last half hour when like things were going from, people were going from being transferred to Doodle Land, or whether the Doodles were becoming Noids. There was that
didn't
whole
really
series.
make sense.
No, it was so confusing, and it's also that like weird bald professor, which is the one that like I guess is the head of the whole thing, but we haven't seen him since the beginning, and where he transported Frank down to the cartoon world, and he's like hiding in some disguise, and then you find out it's him, and it's like, wait, yeah, I haven't seen you for for like almost an hour and a half. Like, what's going on? And it's just everything gets so chaotic. But I love, like, it's all old downtown Vegas, and I live like downtown. I can see the plaza is like 2 blocks from me. I could see it out my window. It's the beautiful sign, and it's deteriorating 70s architecture.
I love that, to be honest.
Oh, I
it's
love
very
it.
America.
I love it. I love just going out and looking at that sign, and just like it's great. And they do renovations. They do renovations like every 4 years or some shit like that. And it's never like the outside to make it look nice. It's just like some sort of like they add like a restaurant and a bar or something like that. Like but yeah, no. Oh, the plaza is great, and I love that they use that as like a, that's like the final 30 minutes practically is like them trying to get the spike off of the plaza, and then Noids turning into Doodles and Doodles turning into Noids. But yeah, I love all the scenery of downtown Vegas, back right near Fremont Street. So you're getting like all those scenes were downtown. It was not like up on the strip. It was all very much South Las Vegas.
Well, I think
South.
that's the cool part
Yeah.
of it. I think that's, sorry to interrupt you. I didn't mean to.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
But that is the cool part of Vegas, I think. If we're looking at it from like a magician's angle, Art Deco is very Kino. It's very streamlined moderns, very Kino. Mid-centuries, very Kino, as well as even that 70s kind of like I forgot the name of it, but I know it has a special name. But even that kind of architecture, that also is very cinematic, very Kino. So I don't know. I think that metaphysically, it makes more sense to have that, not just for the noir kind of nod or elements, but also because it kind of embodies like, well, what is Vegas? Like, as we said at the very, or as I said at the very beginning, Joseph Smith. So like the magician goes out to the desert and he didn't like Vegas because it was a desert. So he didn't stay.
I think you cut out. Jin?
Sorry about that, Eric. I don't know what's going on with me today, but
That's all right.
we must be having a hurricane, honestly, because it's happened to me before, exactly like the weather that is outside. So
Oh, really? Yeah, it's been rainy. It's been hot and rainy. It's like 90 degrees and raining here. So it's very weird. Yeah.
yeah, we've been having a really weird, honestly, it's been freezing every day. Like cold, like American, I guess like 40 degrees. It should be like
Wow.
closer to 90.
Yeah.
So and now it's starting to finally get hot, but now it's almost storm season, not quite, but in about 2 months. So, but obviously we're gonna have a little electrical interference, but it's all good because it's kind of like part and parcel. This always happens when we work together. Maybe like the angels are like just very energetic, I guess.
Well, it's the electricity, we could get zapped into Toon World. Who knows?
So I guess we should offer some color commentary. Like, would you be a Noid or a Doodle if you had the choice?
I'm okay. I'm normally a believer of, if you like, the grass isn't always greener, put it that way. I'm more of one of those people. Like, the grass isn't always greener over the other side of the fence. So I guess I would rather be annoyed, because I don't know what being a doodle is like, but I've managed to tolerate and be annoyed for at least 43 years. I think I'm doing all right. I don't know. Maybe I'd get crushed as a doodle. Maybe I'd succeed, but I'm just going to stick with the hand I have, you know?
I totally agree with you. I think that you have to be annoyed in the sort of like cosmology or the hermeneutic of the film, because they're the only ones who can really transmute between the worlds. Like,
That
yeah,
is true.
the
Oh, yeah,
doodles
that is
can
true.
kind of do it, but the Noids are the dudes. They are the man. They are the magician. So I don't know. I'd have to be annoyed.
I think, I think so. They're the one that has the pen, right? I mean, I guess they're the creator. So yeah, I guess I'd rather be a creator rather than the subject. Though,
See, that's a great framing. I really like that.
Yeah, I mean, because it would be great being I guess there's more freedoms creatively being a cartoon, but being a doodle. But nah, I got to be the master and have some limitations and structure.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
But that's interesting about the doodles, though, isn't it? Is that they are just a contour rather than they're not full. They're just like a contour of what can be. So they don't obviously share our moral conventions because they can't. They don't, exactly like what you said. They don't have boundaries. They don't have a physical form to contain.
Yeah. No, yeah, they can't like really do anything. They can pretend like they're doing a lot, but they can't really do anything. And that was so there was one scene that I just couldn't make any sense of in that last half hour. Like, and it was when people in like the casino started turning into doodles. Do you remember that part?
Yes. So
like it was like people at the slot machine, like it would be a normal old lady human, and like suddenly they pop into like a doodle and like what the hell was going on? And it has something to do with the spike coming out.
Yes. Okay. So the nail is calling down the lightning, and it's because she put it in place, right? She put it in place atop of the hotel or the tower.
Yes.
So it's fixed, meaning that it's continuously. See, this is really a magical thing. This is why I think this is like a Kenneth Grant, like very Typhonian film, because she fixed the key. You could call it a key almost. She fixed the key into place. I know it's called a nail, but we'll just say it's a tantric thing. So just go.
It's it's the same symbol.
It's a logic, right? It's like it's a tool of logic, we'll say. So she puts it in place and it's fixed. So it calls down the lightning. So then it can transmute people. It can sort of like reverse the polarities, we'll call it, and it will take the people to the cool world and the cartoons or the doodles to the human world. But once it's like, if she lifts it up, then then the charge is broken, we can say, the circuit.
So like just random doodles like will become random people at that point. I'm
really trying, Eric, to make it like but there is something, but as I said, like as we both said in the very beginning, it is so chaotic, but there is something you can draw from. So yeah, it could be, you could say that every person is a placeholder for the negative space. The doodles are negative space. So every physical person is really a placeholder for the negative space. So it would actually make sense if the more massless that you are, aka doodle, that would be easier to sort of replace. So you would replace like the old lady at the slot machine or just some random people in the hotel in general. Just whomever. Maybe it would be maybe mass was because the mass is the idea in metaphysical terms, but obviously this is a film, so the hermeneutic is usually imperfect. So obviously they're going to extend it to all the randos, but really it should be meant to be like the least massless first, and then progress. I don't know. Yeah, there's a way to think about it.
No, and I know the writers weren't thinking about it that way. They were just thinking about like, what's the story plot that would get people to come to the movies or whatever, like some sort of Hollywood line. But
absolutely,
if they had just like if it had just been Ralph Bakshi's vision, and I don't know, maybe he envisioned it that way. If there would have just
I
been
don't
an
think so.
explanation, like a sort of a soap opera, like 5-minute explanation telling you all the backstory, everything, like all of that, it would make sense going forward. But it was all just this like very just random hodgepodge plots put together, and eventually they had to like kind of connect them all. So the pen came back at the end. Finally, it was like when I saw the pen, I'm like, oh, yeah, that like makes sense. Where has that been? Like,
Yeah, so
but
there were some really bad gaping, no pun, gaping plot holes, and they either like you can't really amend them. But I think that Bakshi's original vision, maybe I'm being a little bit of a keynote optimist, we'll say, but I think his original vision for the film was a lot stronger than what was executed. Like 4 people playing with your script, 4 people directing or like writing other scenes, having a producer you don't get along with, or in fact hates your guts. That's more the what that's more the reality. I think it all interfered with like what it could have become, like absolutely. But I think there are trace elements we could say of Bakshi that do rise to the surface, and I think those are again the strongest sort of components of the film. The pen, the kind of like flexibility of doing like a Babylon princess rather than like a Babylon woman. That's really interesting to me. And the kind of transmutational Kenneth Grant nature of the Doodles in polarity with the Noids. So I think those were, this is just Jin's opinion, but I think, not to use myself in third person, but I think that that's what his original thing was. And then everything else is kind of like the filler content, you could say.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, I agree. Like, I think his original script was much more like, I don't know how he would really make it a horror movie, but I can see him definitely leaning into making will they or won't they between the characters much more of a bigger sexual deal. And I can see him having elements of like the pen and the spike being, front and center, symbolic. Yeah, no, I think this film was just ruined by the Hollywood system at the time.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Bakshi wanted, like, it was what, it had been like 10 years since he made a film, and he was collecting money, I think, from making the Mighty Mouse series in the 80s, in the late 80s, because he went back to television. So I think this is just like something he'd had, and there was this clamor for, Roger Rabbit was a great film, so we want to capitalize on that. And they had like something a little different, a little edgier. They took a chance, but unfortunately, just like this, it really would have been so much better if it was just Bakshi. And also I want to know, like, what the hell happened to Brad Pitt's character and his real life in 1945. And I mean, there was just a lot of questions at the end that, in the beginning I was following the story, but like, we just need the beginning as some sort of jumping off point, but they never followed through on like, why him, right? Why him?
Maybe it's a traumatic event. Maybe you could understand it through like an NDE, because like an NDE or a near-death experience is very similar to a magical operation or a magical or Kabbalistic experience or a magical experience. It's not quite the same 100%, but it's a magical experience and a NDE are much closer in relation than a psychedelic experience. A psychedelic experience is very different because it's not necessarily different in the context, but it's different in that you're kind of taken to a very specific place of your mind. Whereas a magical experience, you're supposed to be in charge of your own will. So it's kind of one idea is that your will can take you there. An NDE is you're kind of outside of your will, but you're still conscious as like an ego. So there's something of you that also co-creates the reality that you experience. So there is something to that, I think. I agree with you. It was not well explored. This is like me adding another layer. I do think him as a soldier is interesting simply because it places him on that sort of Gevuratic path, that path of fire, that hero's journey. Like it places him directly there. That's where a soldier's archetype would be. So it would be really important. The hero doesn't have to go that way, but a traditional hero does. That's the real path for a traditional hero. So it is interesting that he is like a coming home from war, and then the other guy's like a criminal. And the other guy also, like the looks wise, like Gabriel Byrne, he's very different than Brad Pitt. And I'm not saying he's not handsome. I'm saying he has dark hair and he's a little swarthier. So even those small details, they actually can signify archetypes and magical workings, like someone with like light hair and light eyes, or someone with dark hair and dark eyes. That can be a different archetype of the hero or whomever character you want to embody. So the fact that he was like a prisoner, he's like a criminal, it makes him a lot more transgressive in a way, but it also posits him on a different Sephra. I don't even know if that makes sense. It makes sense to me, but I want to make sure that that it makes sense like outwardly as well.
Oh no, I mean it just goes back to the basic, like in noir, it's always like the light-haired guys are the good guys and the dark-haired guys are the bad guys. The same with in westerns, the white hat is good, black hat is bad.
That's very interesting.
Yeah,
Very Masonic.
Yeah, and I mean it's just no, Gabriel Byrne, he does such a great job. It's actually like a really good acting performance.
He was good in it. But it was kind of like he was a very background character in a way. They didn't show him that much.
Yeah, and also like his crime. Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. His crime was like murdering the man who was in bed with his wife. Now, I'm not saying you should do that, but
that's not the worst.
I am a little sympathetic, right? So it's not like he was like he murdered some random family or something like that. Like it's just no, I get it. I'm not saying I do it, but I get it. And
no, and it is interesting because like Americans or people like more thinking in that like Westoid framing like us, we are a little more sympathetic to a crime of passion, and that's even sort of part of the legal tradition here. Is that we would account for that we even have a name for it.
Yeah. No, I mean it's a crime of passion. Okay, like I get it. So I have a lot of sympathy for him. So he's not even like there. He's the villain, I guess, but not really. I mean, his crime ultimately was having sex with a cartoon. And if you're putting yourself in his situation, he's been in prison for years, drawing this sexy woman, Hollywood, and just fantasizing about her, right? Like he's in prison and now he gets a chance to have sex with her. So, and she's definitely trying to use him for that also. So there is like some sort of compliance. But again, I can't blame him for any of his moves. I really can't. I sympathize with him more than I would like any other like bad guy in a typical Western or noir film, right? And that may have been one of the things that the writers debated. Do we want to have like a real bad guy or
Well, she's the
you
real
know,
bad guy.
she kind of is. Wow.
Yeah.
She
No, she's
kind
a
of
bad
is.
girl. It's
She's
like
the
bad.
worst
It's like
one.
it's like 1994 Bad Girls Club. People don't even
Yeah.
probably know that show, but
Yeah,
I'm
I've heard.
old.
I mean, I know of it. You know. Yeah, I know.
It was
Yeah,
like a
Patty went.
proto reality TV show about like girls with troubled backgrounds, but they didn't really have troubled backgrounds. They were just kind of like out of control early 2000s party girls. A lot of them were black and Latino. Not all of them. They always had like a drug problem or a drinking problem or whatever, or anger problem. And then they would put them in a house together. And that turned out about as well as you'd expect. And then the cameras followed them around and they would go to like nightclubs and like get like wasted basically, and then come home and the fights would start.
God, what whores! Like, I mean, it's just like
I
you're
mean, it was
whoring yourself
brutal.
out, like to be like, hey, I'm a alcoholic and I shouldn't have alcohol. And the producers are like, hey, we got some bottles for you, and they're
Oh yeah,
like, you
that's
know,
what
yeah,
they did.
that's all
100%.
that shit is. And it's like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, you're just whoring
no
yourself
question about it.
for like, yeah, you'll delve deeper into your substance abuse problems.
Yeah, well, that's
For
what they
money.
would have to go to therapy once a week, or like I don't know how much it was, but it always showed it like they would go to therapy, and it was like I mean, it was so bullshit, right? Like it's exactly what you said. It was like totally enabling all the bad behaviors, sometimes enabling the bad, often probably, and then also um probably not just enabling, probably promoting to a degree.
Oh yeah, I mean, because you like they're giving them money to do it, so it's like,
Well, that's
yeah,
right.
hey, well, you know, will
They stay in a
you,
mansion,
yeah,
quote
will you go
unquote
to a
mansion.
club and have a huge hangover the next day, and like, you know, that will you do that for money? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and they send them on little activities, and they're like, "This is good for your like team building, like your self-esteem."
And they get in fights.
Yeah, that's basically. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, like not just verbal. This was like a show that was like it almost was avant-garde in a way because they would get in full-on fist fights. Sometimes the whole house would get into fist fights. Some like I'm talking like teams, and they would like pull up their hair and their earrings and all of it and get like Vaseline. And I mean, I'm serious. It was like, and they would go like full out, like mattresses would be thrown, chairs. They would like beat down these like big black bouncer guys. I mean, it was, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make this like it's not a Bad Girls Club episode, but she's a
Oh
bad
yeah,
girl.
I
She's like,
know.
that's her.
Yeah, no, she's yeah, definitely in it to win it. She's a survivor. Yeah, no, yeah, Holly, yeah, she is the evil one. Wow.
Well, she's a
Uh,
witch, right? In a way,
yeah,
Hollywood.
but she gets a happy ending, and
Well,
the guys
doesn't,
kind of don't.
that's right.
Like, I mean,
Well,
I guess Brad
Frank
Pitt's
kind of
sort.
does.
Yeah, but like, what happened to his mom in the motorcycle? Like, he just like, I'm sorry, I'm just like, he just forgot about that. He left his. There's no like, oh yeah, I fought in World
Yeah,
War
he
II.
went to the spirit world.
He
He's
went.
like yeah.
Mhm.
He isekai'd and he forgot. Like that's part of that whole smoky mist Kenneth Grant world too, is like the kind of shedding the skin of the memories of the past. It's a big part of it for them. I'm not saying that for me. I'm just saying that that's a more Kenneth Grant idea, but they think that it does make sense in a sort of tantric way. I won't get into it, but um no, I think it's like shedding the form. That's basically what he did. He shed the human form. He had to choose one or the other, right? Because it's not a neither nor situation. Like you said, he can have sex with the spirit for many reasons. Obviously not well explained. But yeah, he had to choose, but he didn't really choose because he was kind of like a passive agent to his own fate in a way. And so he became a doodle, and but then through being a doodle he was able to sort of like maybe that was his apotheosis, maybe that was who he was meant to be. Was a doodle, I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know, but it's just like there's no mention of him ever remembering like his previous life, which is like, so there is some sort of memory wipe going on. I don't know. It's yeah, the ending was wild, and it was like a fun. It tried to make it seem like everything
The
turned out
ending was
well
the
for
best for
everyone.
me, I have to say.
Yeah, it was good because at least like okay, all right, everything turned out well for everyone.
As well as it could in the circumstance.
Yeah, yeah. um, and oh, the soundtrack. Um, soundtrack was great.
I agree.
Did you?
I was like, oh, I'll let Eric say it. Yeah,
Oh,
I totally agree. It's a really good, no, it's a legit good soundtrack. The jazz music is actually good. It's
Mhm.
not, jazz can go either way. I like jazz. I've said it before on the show, or on the show with you, Eric. But
Mhm.
I like jazz, but jazz can be there's a fine line between like it can go a little too like porno sax, and then you
Mhm.
don't want that. You want it to be like cool jazz.
Yeah, you want it to be like kind of the random, the stereotypical, the notes they're not playing, like sort of thing, which
Totally.
is, you know, I hate that phrase, but like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of like, yeah, the from anywhere from Charlie Parker to, Miles Davis or John Coltrane, whatever, and or even older like Dixieland stuff. Yeah, you kind of want that. You don't want the 80s elevator jazz, which is only really nice when you're in a waiting room or an elevator, which is fine.
Exactly.
It's fine. It's great.
Yeah, totally fine, because it's just punctuating music, right, for the time.
Mhm. And it's
But it's
fitting.
exactly what you said. There's something very metaphysical. I know we've talked about this a little bit, but there's something very metaphysical about jazz because of the reason you said. It's in the negative space. So
Mhm.
jazz is really the music of the doodles. That's actually kind of interesting way to think of it.
Yeah, and the doodles are like jazz, like especially in this film. Like I just on the second recent watch, I was just looking at like paying attention more to like just his drawings and the random characters that just pop up on screen and then disappear randomly. And some like there was one guy I noticed that was just like kind of one of those like exercise balls, but had like for he had that for like legs, or an abdomen was just like this round thing, and then like his like arms. And I'm just like, these are such strange characters, and they just pop up for like a few seconds, and I'm like, it's so like how much energy and creativity put into like creating these like weird characters with these facial expressions and everything going on, and you only see them for a few seconds, and he's created like hundreds of them, and they just pop up everywhere in some scenes, especially in the nightclubs, and also in the last 30 minutes. Like, I mean, it's just so many weird characters, like weird doodles, and I think that's just great. He's just kind of showing off, I think, at that point. Like, look, like here's what here's an odd character I create that you'd probably love me to make a whole film of, but no, he's just going to be in there for 5 seconds.
No, you're 100% right. It's like the whole thing, I think, Eric, is maybe I'm not because I go very metaphysical, but I think maybe even an easier way to describe it is that she opens the abyss.
Mm-hmm.
So she lets the hosts out. So when they're appearing distorted or strange or fantastical, it's often how, if you look at medieval manuscripts, like you'll see, it'll be very like biblical or theological text, like pretty normative for the most part. But then they'll like add in little demons or little gargoyles or little angels or like little things, and it's like the plethora. That's really what the host is. It's all the weird beings in creation. So I personally think that that's a kind of a way to understand it, you could say, is that
Wow.
she's opening the door, the threshold, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, no, she's just like kind of opening the doors to like all sorts of odd things. Yeah, no, yeah, that's perfect. No, and
Okay.
also on the soundtrack though, So David Bowie had a song on the soundtrack.
Yes.
It closed. It was on the credits. Real Cool World was the song, and it'd been a few years since he released something. This is in the 90s, and like it wasn't the greatest Bowie era, right?
No.
But
he was a magician.
Yes.
Well-known magician. You know, he was a part of the Astrum Argentum. So he like really knew his shit. He was really good friends with Roger Waters in this period. Roger Waters is also speculated. Obviously, we can't confirm, but we can say speculatively maybe Roger Waters is a member of the Astrum Argentum as well, or was or has an affiliation. So interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, in the Bowie song, like it's decent. It's decent, and that's high praise from from this era of Bowie. It's like, you know, created a decent song between like what tonight or whatever that album was, and Let's Dance. I don't know. I think this song was between those two albums, but also My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult was on there multiple times, and those are great songs. Ministry, a lot of like pre-industrial, like late 80s stuff was on there. Really good. So soundtrack, very solid soundtrack.
One of the better Bakshi soundtracks, in fact.
Oh yeah.
We've had a lot of criticism for several films and their choices.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, in our defense, like, we really like the films. It's just that, you know, like, things can always be better. And soundtrack is so important, especially for us as, like, you know, like millennials. I think it's like it's a very punctuating element in films, especially films of this era. So it kind of has to be, you know, it has to be sick.
Yeah, it's like see the last end of American pop, and also the odd jazz choices in Wizards. I think those are the ones you're referring to. Yeah, it's very, it's soundtrack does play a part to the mood, and I think the soundtrack was used well. Like it's never always like he never really has his soundtracks too loud, or at least on this he didn't. And it's just sort of like played in the background a little bit, and it sort of went along with the action. Like the kind of the industrial 80s stuff was like very much like kind of chaotic, just like all the scenes were. So it went along in the background softly.
No, you're totally right. This is like so the soundtrack is cool at the risk of, you know, making a pun. It is very cool. It's a great soundtrack. It's very punctuating. It's never distracting, and it never detracts. So, you know, high praise for me for sure. I agree. And I think it's also interesting because there is like, as we said, like there's an MTV kind of like early 90s element where a lot of music videos at the time were incorporating at least elements of animation. You also had Aeon Flux.
Oh,
you know?
mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
I was a huge fan of that.
Yeah, and we did we did the episode on I think it was Fire and Ice. Might have been Wizards. I think it was Fire and Ice. Peter Chung was an animator on that. So it's interesting that even you brought up Bakshi working in like television in the late 80s. It's like that's what American animators were doing. They were going on TV, they were doing television, and then they were also doing features, and it was kind of like a rotating thing depending on the taste of the audience or whatever. But it would have been interesting to see if you just gave someone like Ralph Bakshi like a production studio, and maybe not like carte blanche, but you know, like how much does one of his movies cost? Like $5 million?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think, well, Cool World was like 28 million. So
that was like obviously having the superstar kind of cast, that probably didn't help.
Yeah, no, and they had to pay Kim Basinger a lot, and no, yeah, I also think, you know, the writers that they got were kind of like hyper, you know, one of the guys like worked on like 48 hours and stuff like that, like, you know, wrote some good films. So yeah, I think I think they're wasting their budget on a lot. They could have probably spent less money on the Kim Basinger role. Like, I mean, she's great, but you could have found someone else. You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree.
Like at that time, her price, I mean, she had to be the highest paid. Like Brad Pitt is huge now, but back then, like
He was just a starter.
Yeah, so it was nothing. Like Gabriel Byrne was probably paid more than him. A British actor, I think, and kind of, you know, did theater, all that stuff. Whereas Brad Pitt, at the time, I think he did Thelma and Louise. Maybe that was his big movie.
That was his breakout for sure.
Yeah. So I think he had done that, and then he got this, but like Thelma and Louise wasn't, you know, it wasn't Legends of the Fall or anything like that, or whatever his breakout movie was. God, River Runs Through It, maybe. I don't know, but it was around that, you know, it was around that time where he wasn't making as much. So yeah, I think the budget on this film, like you didn't need 28 million. Ralph Bakshi could have made this by him, you know, himself. If he was doing it like he was doing the Wizards and everything, it would have been like, you know, 15 million at most.
Most, right? Exactly.
Yeah. So
I agree.
It's just, yeah, they kind of screwed him on this, I think, which is unfortunate.
Well, I think it was intentional. I think his ideas have been percolating for so long. Like he's still sitting on all these projects that never got made, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, again, like the whole film is frustrating and maybe sexually frustrating in a metaphorical way, but maybe it's also like kind of like a metaphor for his career. It is kind of like a frustrated career. It's never been able to, like, there's been a few times where he's had, like, I would say that Wizards to me is a masterpiece. I would say Fire and Ice to me is a masterpiece. At least for American animated cinema.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so, but I think that he could have had many, if I'm being honest. I think he had a lot of potential in him to do more. And I think that it was constant sort of hampering of his work, his ideas. Like I could have imagined like a horror film in the sense that, like, okay, so what if Hollywood steals the pen, starts like murking all these both Noids and Doodles. So then you have to admit that like the Doodles are also alive in a way. There's like a murder is a murder, you could say. I don't know. I could see it, but I think I would have been interested to see where he took it, because that's a very interesting premise, like a noir horror.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think I wish that was the one that would have been made. Like, I mean, this is an interesting film. It's all right.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's all right.
Obviously we'll continue in the tradition and do a numerical relationship. Not relationship, excuse me, a numerical value for the whole film.
Mm-hmm. Numerical value. So this is a scale of 1 to 10, I take it.
Yeah, you can do it on a scale. Yeah, 1 to 11, we'll say. Okay, just because that's more magical. But I think that's funnier too, because it's like very you're doing it like you're saying it, so you're kind of like meta. It's meta magic. You're like letting people know, okay, the 11 is magic, so it's kind of funny. I don't know.
I mean, just for the animation and the setting and its entertainment value, as long as you don't like question everything that's happening, I'll give it a 6. And now 7. I could do 7. Yeah, I give it a 7.
Oh, usually I'm the nice one. You're being way nicer than I was planning to be, but I'll
Really?
increase in relativity. So originally I was like, this is like a 4 or 5, but my 4 or 5 is like a lot different than like an IMDb 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
Jin's 4.5 is like actually watchable. Like I totally think this is a watchable film. I think there's lots of cool elements. I love Ralph Bakshi, and I think that there's some really cool ideas. I just would say, but then I could also increase. I could easily go to a 6.5 because that's more like if a normie is looking at like my evaluation, that's more what it is. It's more like a 6.5, but I'm a little harsher, I guess, in my system, but like also a little nicer because like where my cutoff, or maybe I'm more tolerant because my cutoff is a lot. Like I have a problem. I can watch a film that's like a trashy like C film from like some weird, from the 80s from some weird country. That's fine. But yeah, I think okay. So I'll give it I'll give it a 6.5. So that's, I think it's fair. I think nobody did like the best acting job. I think the voice acting was better than physical acting. Gabriel Burns was good. And yeah, I think 6.5 for me.
Yeah, I did like the acting. It was just kind of, just classic noir style. Like it was pretty straightforward for both of them, but that's how they needed to play it, I think, to make the film work. But yeah, no, yeah, 6.5's a solid rating. So whenever I look at film reviews, like my first like review guide was like the whole like Leonard Maltin review guide thing for movies. Like it was before you could get online, right? So when I was like in middle school or whatever, like I just like have like the ratings open, and he always gave it out of 4. And so anything that was 2 stars or above, I just considered a good movie because he couldn't really account for my taste, you know? Like, so I think like, dipping lower into 4 or 5 is fine. Like, at least for me, because I'd see that and I'd be like, oh, I may like it a little bit more.
Yeah, still
Like
watchable,
that's what I
right?
think about everything.
That's very, you know what that is? That's very like that's very dudes rock. To shout
Yeah.
out J. David Osborne. That's a very dudes rock mentality to film. Is like, yeah, a 4 or 5. Oh yeah, I could totally watch that. I can probably go up to a 3, to be honest with you, but probably no more.
Yeah, like, and it's also when I see like someone giving like 4 out of 4 stars, it's like maybe I'm gonna like that a little less. I always kind of have that feeling. I'll still watch, but yeah, no, it's yeah, that's why I just give it like I'll give it a 7 because I think if someone just watches it, I think they'll be entertained. They'll be confused, but if they're really bothered by that, then maybe don't watch it. But if you're fine with being a little confused, then I think you'll be okay. And there are like there are good points in the film, right? Like I mean, the very like the last 10 minutes are great. There's the scene in there when Frank is confronting Holly in her dressing room. I like look, and the first 10-15 minutes are really like entertaining. I guess like it's just the overall confusion of the film is what like would give me like to take points off, right? But you get to see scenes of old Vegas and it's nice, nostalgic a little bit, so I like that too.
No, I think that the maybe the formula is all there, like noir, Vegas, mixing reality, kind of a magician's nod, but like maybe a metafiction kind of layer as well. And so I think that you're totally right that there's like maybe it's nostalgia. It's like lost MTV generation kind of like nostalgia. It's like you can look back on it and maybe the film actually increases in value. Like watching it now rather than watching it at the time.
Like when the MTV generation still, they knew what noir was, right?
Exactly.
Like I like today, I don't know, like they think noir is like, oh, you mean like Saw or something, you know what I mean? Like,
do they really think that? That's pretty dire.
No, I mean, it's just like, but kind of like they would not know, like detectives. What you mean, like Dateline? Like true crime. And it's like, well, yeah, but it wasn't. It was fiction, but it was, he tried to explain, and there's no like they watch noir, but they just I don't know.
They don't really have a conceptualization of what that genre really is.
Yeah, they can't like pinpoint it as a genre. It's just like, oh, those dark detective things.
That's kind of sad, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, it's the new generation.
Well, I think that was a great episode on Cool World, and I did not listen to anyone else do the sort of review because I actually never do because I like to stay, I call it like clean or whatever. Like I just like my mind to be like of my own thoughts, and then whatever we bring to it in synthesis, that's what makes the conversations really interesting. So again, Eric, 5th episode on Threshold Saints. So I don't even know if there's a title for that, but you are right now you are the returning king of Threshold Saints.
Hell yeah, thank you.
So that's pretty cool. Honestly, it is cool for me too because it's like actually Monty might have had so I'm sorry, Monty, but
yes, he has
might
been
be
on
5th too.
Yes.
Yeah, he's been on, and we have got a free reign episode and an episode with Thomas or Millennial.
I couldn't find one podcast on Cool World alone.
There was one on Spotify from 2016 because I googled it.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. There was just the one episode, and I was like, no, not listening to it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See, I didn't search Spotify. I just searched like the iTunes thing, and I don't know. They always have different stuff on there. So, but yeah, I couldn't find anything. I found like some Ralph Bakshi ones, but nothing specifically on Cool World. So I was like, all right, well, I guess no one's bothered. But we're gonna brave into it.
So thank you so much, Eric.